Welcome, guys. This is the first ever edition of the Wedge Adjustment NASCAR DFS show. I'm your co-host, Josh Neal, otherwise known as Sports Swish on Twitter. I'm joined by PJ Frapp DFS. Okay, let's dive into it. This is the Kobalt 400, 267 laps divided into three segments. First segment is 80 laps. The second segment is 80 laps. And the last segment is 107 laps. So after that, let's go into last year's winner. Brad Keselowski starts on the pole. That's going to be a huge question for us DFS players on what to do with him. PJ's got some stats for us to go over from last year and the years before. Some very important and useful DFS stats I think you guys will like.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, in previous races, the last 5 years, the winner has come from the furthest starting back was 18th. So track position is going to be really important at this race. Can't really, there are a lot of green flag runs similar to Atlanta, but there's not that much fall off. So when guys get out front, it's very difficult to pass. I think there was actually only one pass for the lead under green flag last year, and it was for the win.
Crazy.
So, there's going to be a lot of track position. Restarts are going to be really hectic. I don't think we're going to see, the crazy hitting early for tires and stuff like that just because the fall-off is not as great as Atlanta was. It'll be interesting. Last year and the years past have kind of – there's a blueprint, so we'll go over it.
Yeah. So if you guys didn't watch practice or anything, I figured I'd go over some 15 consecutive laps. It really tells you what DFS players need to look at as far as making lineups. The top six in that was Ryan Blaney, he was first. Chase Elliott was second. Kevin Harvick third. Larson fourth. Fifth was Jimmy Johnson, and I'll talk about him later. But the more I read into Jimmy Johnson, I'm liking him even more. And finally was Jamie McMurray. So I figured, we would start out. I know a lot of people that look up DFS, NASCAR strategy, they don't know cash from GPP. And I know that we talked about it earlier. We said that, we're going for place differential regardless on GPP or cash.
Yeah.
And this week is quite a few people on the 10 to 20 range that really intrigue us. And I think that's where the GPPs will be won. And I think if you nail the trio from that 10 to 20 range, you're going to be in for a good day. And, as far as 20 and on back, you got guys like Stenhouse and Almirola, which I'm done with Almirola. I think you could say the same thing.
Yeah, I'm really concerned with where their speed has been all year. It hasn't clicked yet.
You would think that with the Fords doing so well, you think they would, do good too, but they're obviously on a whole different plan, it looks like. So
yeah,
let's hop into it. In the 30 to 40 range, is there anyone that intrigues you there? You got Almirola 30th. You got DiBenedetto, David Reagan, Cole Witt, Corey LaJoie, Gray Gaulding, Jeffrey Earnhardt, Reed Sorensen, Derek Cope, Timmy Hill, just a bunch of names that the average viewer don't care about. So is there anyone in that range that intrigues you?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it earlier today. For me, I typically will punt probably one spot in my cash lineup just because I know it's so safe, So for this race, I'm looking at Cole Witt. He's had a great start to the year, top 20s in both races so far. Daytona, it's kind of a crapshoot, but top 20 in Atlanta was pretty impressive for this team.
Yeah, it was impressive.
They're in better equipment than he was last year. They have all I believe it's the old Richard Petty chassis that they bought when they sold that Brian Scott team off to them. So he's definitely in better equipment. And just as far as cash goes, he's starting so far back that even if things do go wrong, he's only going to fall 6 spots, and you're still going to get a 39th place finish. And yeah, obviously it's not what you're looking for, but it's not the guy starting in the top 10 who wrecks out and it's negative 29, and then you You can't afford that in cash. And I feel like a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but a lot of the novice people will make that mistake, and they'll just start all the guys in the top 10 or top 15, and
you see it every week.
Can't do it.
Yeah, I think that's NASCAR right now. I think the inexperience of the DFS players, the money is there. So if you know at least anything about NASCAR, I feel like you're good to go. As far as I see, I agree with you on Cole Witt. I thought about David Reagan. The more I looked into it, he ran pretty well last week too. I think him switching back to his old team has helped him a little bit. As far as today goes, I don't remember where he was in 10 lap averages or anything, but I don't think it was anywhere near the top 20.
Yeah, no, he was 29th.
Oh, he was? Okay. Where was Cole Witt?
Cole Witt actually did not run 10 consecutive laps in practice. So it's kind of hard to go by. But again, there's no real risk there.
Yeah.
And in cash, you're trying to eliminate all your risk. And when you have, like you said, all these guys in the 10 to 20s, 10 to 20 starting spot, I mean, that's where your value is. That's where you got to get it right, because you got a guy like Harvick starting 19th. If he ends up in the top 5, that's how you're going to win your cash games. You need the place differential, and it's going to be the expensive guys. So if you're going to take the guy starting 30th or back, you might as well take a punt because it's safe and you're saving salary.
Yeah. So as far as that goes, so no Almirola. If you're watching this, do not pick Eric Almirola. He's probably, at best, he could get to 25th, but the way he's going, he probably will hit the wall and crash. He's just not that good this year.
That's tough. It's obviously early in the year. I gave him a lot of consideration. For me, last week, it was literally the 1-1 with him and Ty Dillon. And
that was
it went with Ty Dillon, but the thing with Almirola is he has good track history.
Just not the car.
At Vegas. So it's just going to take him, I think, a couple races to kind of figure out what is going on, because, they interviewed him and he had nothing. He said, I don't know where the speed is. I don't know where the balance is. And those two things, not good. Yeah.
I think it's a wait and see approach. When he does do something, I think we can consider him again, but I think at the price, like you said, Cole Witt's not much cheaper, so why not go with him? And like you said, if he does wreck, he's only going to lose. I think the thing is with Timmy Hill, Derek Cope, and Reed Sorensen, the guys like that, I think some of them guys are going to start and park. Some of them, I don't think they do that anymore, but they're going to take time off the track and come back on, stuff like that. So I think he's safe at 35, if he does wreck. But, there's just too much there. Like you said, he's a good cash game punt that you can add your 11 to 20 guys, especially when you got Kevin Harvick. I think he's the most expensive this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah, he is.
And I think Jimmy Johnson's third, right behind Keselowski. So, that's where you want to save that money.
Exactly. And I would only play him in cash. I would not play Cole Witt in GPP just because he does not have that upside.
Yeah.
I know a lot of smart people played Michael McDowell last week. We got 23 points from him, which it's not going to kill you, but it just allows us to get the more expensive guys that are going to get the price differential, and that's how your cash games should be constructed.
Yeah. So let's move on here to the 21st through 29th starting spots. Ryan Newman, Austin Dillon, which he really intrigues me. We'll talk about that here in a second. AJ Allmendinger, I was looking at him. He's got a pretty good driver rating in the past 2 races here, so I'd have to check his Twitter, the team Twitter, and see how they're feeling about him. I'm not sure about him yet. Ty Dillon, I'm keeping up with the Twitter on their team. They're really liking their car. I think he's decently priced. I'm just not sure he can gain enough positions to do anything. Then you got Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell, Castle, Danica Patrick, and Ricky Stenhouse. And I think we need to spend a little time talking about Ricky Stenhouse. As we all seen in practice, he smacked the wall. Tell us a little bit more about him.
Yeah, he's another guy who last year, if he didn't, he had a penalty late in the race, which cost him a ton of track position. He was running in the top 10 most of the day. He had his best career finish at Vegas last year, which was 12th. Has pretty good history here, considering, but unfortunately, he was kind of the same boat as Almirola. They cannot find the balance of the car, can't find speed. I mean, they were really, really loose, pretty much all practice, all qualifying. They're throwing everything at it, and they just couldn't figure it out. So, I mean, he even said it. He was like, hey, I
Yeah.
kind of jokingly, but it was kind of serious, like, hey, well, maybe I do have to try the backup car. Because
Yeah, I mean,
it was that bad for them, so.
the backup car can't be any worse than that.
I mean, you wouldn't think so. And just a little side note on him, just so people know, he will be going to the back of the field because of a backup car. So he's going to technically start in 39, but he's going to be scored on DraftKings at 20. So you're going to have that negative 10 right away, which, I mean, it's not so concerning if you're going to play, but I just don't really see how he is all that playable right now.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, he's going to start in the back, which, I mean, he can probably make that up, but there's always that concern. And quite frankly, you know, you would think that he would be good, these Fords. You know, it's just like Eric Almirola was talking about. The Fords are so good, and then here's these two, and we're just wondering what's going on. You know, it's interesting because in cash, I was sitting here thinking about it, and I see a lot of guys. I've looked at a lot of guys on Twitter, you know, the DFS experts, and a lot of them, you know, they're considering playing him in cash just because he's starting 29th, and at worst, you know, like the same thing with Witt, he can't fall much farther. There's a chance that backup car, you know, they can get that tuned up to some other Ford guys set up, you know. There is that room, you know, if he sniffs the top 20, there is that differential points that you will get. I think with him, you got to be careful because, like you said, if you just seen his interview, he's not that happy. And the backup cars are tuned very similar to the primary car. So it just gives me concern, you know, to see people saying just put him in cash and move on. I just think you've got to give him that consideration to, you know, maybe go 50% on him if you're making two lineups. You know, it just depends on how many cash game lineups you make. I wouldn't go every lineup in cash with him. In GPPs, I'm not touching him. I don't know about you, but I don't think I'll have too much of him.
I mean, there's a part of me that might want a little piece of him only because people have seen kind of the same things that we have seen. Maybe have heard his interview and they realize that he's starting in the back. So just based on ownership alone, he might be worth a shot because you don't know what's in that backup car or whatever, just how it would react and if they were able to figure it out.
There's always that chance.
It's tough. It really is tough because he is at a price point that, I mean, honestly, you can definitely use this week. And it's starting further back, and I would love to be able to play him. I just cannot pull the trigger in cash.
And another thing is, I think a lot of people are going to say, well, Casey Kane, I think he started 29th last week, and he came in the top 5. I think a lot of people are going to try to assume, you know, he can make it top 10, which is totally wrong because Casey Kane, he looks pretty good this week too. That team has got it figured out.
Yeah, I think Hendricks as a whole has it figured out. And Casey Kane in Atlanta has elite track history. He won there multiple times, and that's to me. If people are, comparing those two similarly, that's not even close.
Yeah. You have any interest in Danica?
Again, a little bit.
Same deal.
Definitely GPPs. You need that salary because we'll talk about them coming up, but like all those place differential guys are really, really expensive.
Let's see here. I know we was talking about Landon Castle earlier. I don't see how you can play him. What's your thoughts? I'm not playing him at all.
I mean, honestly, I'd give him more thought if he was starting where Cole Witt was starting. And I know that's only six places ahead, but regardless, that's 6 places. And that's pretty big when you're, a low dollar team and you're, he
could easily come in 33rd,
Right. And for this race, in the previous years, you will typically need in your lineup to get between 8 and 10 place differential points.
That's a very good fact.
So if you can't envision him gaining 8 spots, you can't play him.
Yeah, that's with all these guys, really.
Correct.
And then he goes Michael McDowell. Not going to roster him. Same deal.
No.
Chris Buescher. There's a lot of hype around his natural wild card this week. I'm sure that'll give him a couple of people on his train this week, but I'm not going to play him.
Nah.
It's a pretty good paint scheme, though. You got to admit.
Oh yeah.
Barstool Sports. And here's where the bottom half of this 21 through 30 or 30 positions. This is where we start to think, well, these guys are playable. And it starts with Ty Dillon. Like I said, if you follow the Geico Racing Twitter page, they seem to figure out something there at the end of the practice. I'm not sure where he's slated among, do you know his salary right off the top of your head?
I don't. I want to say it's high sixes, I believe. I should know that, but I don't. I'll look it up real quick.
All right. If he is high sixes, I think you got to give him a chance because I think the Dillon brothers, they love this track. I know Austin Dillon likes this track a lot. Ty Dillon, he's not raced here in the Sprint Cup car, I don't think.
Yeah, Ty is 65.
65?
Yeah.
That's – you got to – like you said, you got to think he's going to bump up 6 positions, which he very well could. Childress as a whole, they really aren't showing that good of speed in the 10-lap averages. There wasn't anyone in the 15 consecutive lap averages. So,
no.
I'm probably have my share of him. What about you?
Yeah, he's interesting, and again, it's a salary play. It's just you want to get the most horses as you can to maybe end this weekend because they are starting in such good spots to move up.
Okay, here's a good question for you. Would you go Stenhouse at 29 or would you go Ty Dillon at 24?
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's really, really tough. I would probably go Stenhouse though, just for the place differential possibility. Because if he does sneak up into the top 20, then you're really, really talking. And for Ty to have a similar performance, he would have to get up to 14th.
Yeah, and I don't see him getting past 15th, 16th. I really can't see him doing that.
Unless some crazy stuff goes on. But again, this is not – it's anything can obviously happen. It's NASCAR. There's a lot of variance in it and whatnot. But barring some craziness, it's a pretty standard race where there's going to be a lot of green flag runs, a lot of normal pitch strategy. Unless it gets into like a fuel mileage race, which again, that's variance. You can't rely on it. So,
yeah, we'll talk about that later too. AJ Allmendinger, like I said earlier, he's done pretty well at mile and a halves here. He caught on last year at the end of the season. But again, I want to play him, and when I don't play him, he seems to sneak up and get a top 12. When I do play him, he seems to finish right where he starts. So, do you know where he was slotted at in the top, the consecutive lap averages? I'm not really sure.
He was 25th in 10 lap, and I want to say 23rd or 22nd in fastest lap, just single lap.
Yeah. So he's, like I said, it's about the same thing as Ty Dillon, really. They're not showing that too good of speed, so we'll move on from him. Now, here's where everything gets interesting for me is Austin Dillon. I think he's starting 22nd. He locks the track. And you pointed out he locks his car pretty well. Can you tell us more on that?
Yeah, for sure. He had the 10th fastest single lap, and his 10 lap was only 18th. But his 10 lap, he went out on older tires than a lot of the other guys did. Whereas if you notice, his 10 lap was 19 to 29, where a lot of the guys were 1 through 10. So he was going out on older tires later in the run. trying to figure out what his car is going to do as the run goes on. And just balance-wise, he was not losing the rear end at all. It just had good balance, and he had good enough speed. And, I mean, ideally, these cars have to drive well.
Yeah.
Just go quick, for 10 laps. You've got to be able to handle it. And just how turn one was today, at least, and I'm sure tomorrow too, because it's going to be hotter there, so it's going to be slicker. That left rear is kind of like when it sits down and it comes up. If you got too much front grip, these guys are losing, the rear end of the car. And you were not seeing that from Ty. It was an easy drive for him, Austin. And he's definitely somebody I'm heavily considering playing in cash. I probably will.
Me as well.
Yeah, it's just a good combination of everything.
Yeah, he's what you want this week. He's going to get you that place differential. I could easily see him top 10. I think that's realistic. I think he's shown something this year. He showed something last year as well, but as the races go on in his career, he gets better. And like you said, that turn one, that could cause a problem tomorrow, and that's where the variances are going to come in, the wrecks. But like you said, if you got a well-balanced car, that's going to be the key. And he seems happy with his car. Ryan Newman, I'm never a fan of playing Ryan Newman. I don't know what it is. He's just not that big of a name. I think the best days of his career are done for. Will you have any shares of him?
I'm still up in the air on it. I think it's an excellent GPP play, though, only because I don't really normally love his upside, but he's starting so close to Austin Dillon, and everybody is going to click Austin Dillon before they click Ryan Newman. There's no doubt. So that alone, to me, makes him a great GPP play, because if he sneaks into the top 10 and we'll just say Austin has a tough day, that's a massive boost for you.
Yeah, exactly. If you got him and that does happen to Dillon, you're set.
Right.
So let's see. Let's move on to the next. Okay, 11 through 20. Here is the place that you want to have perfect. If you have the perfect 11 through 20 in your lineup, you might do pretty well tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to start out Trevor Bayne. Not going to pick him. What about you?
No, I have no interest. 24th in 10 lap and 18th in single lap. I mean, it's just not somebody I play.
Yeah, exactly. Here's where it starts. Kevin Harvick. And before I let you go, I'm just going to go over last week. That guy dominated the race last week. And I think last year he was dominating races and his pit crew messed him up. It seemed like every time. And he would complain about his pit crew. And last week, his pit crew was flawless. They looked awesome. And then I think was it the final pit stop or was it the pit stop before the last one? Final one. He sped on pit road and he just basically got screwed out of a win, but it was his fault. He took blame for it. And now, when I was thinking before the practices and qualifying, even then, I was thinking revenge week. He's going to be so mad. He's going to be driving the wheels off that car, and he's probably he might win the race tomorrow. But he starts 19th. It adds fuel to the fire, and he's in perfect position to, and like I said, he was third in 15 consecutive lap averages. He's the perfect play. I think he's going to be high owned, especially in cash. GPP, some people might, limit their exposure, but for me, he's an automatic cash play. I like Jimmy Johnson as well, but he starts 19th to Jimmy Johnson 16th, which is 3 positions. But I think Kevin Harvick can come up to the front. I think he is going to lead some laps. I think, like you was telling me earlier, that there's so many lap leaders here that I think it's just going to be varied throughout the field. And I think Kevin Harvick's going to come up there and he's going to dominate a portion of the race. So I like him very well. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, 100%. There's no way. I mean, for me, I play one cash lineup.
Me as well.
It's just how I do it. I differentiate in tournaments. It's just how I do it. So yeah, there's no way
Yeah.
I'm having my cash lineup without Harvick in it. And some people honestly might be scared. They're going to see, oh, he's only 15th fastest in single lap. Well, that's kind of always their Achilles heel, honestly, is short run speed
Yeah.
with them specifically. Great, great, great on the long runs. So yeah, it might take him half the race, to get up there, but he may dominate the middle half of the race.
Oh yeah.
You could certainly see that. He looked very good in practice today. Again, another really balanced car, not really having any issues fighting it. I just don't see a reason why you wouldn't play him. I know the price is high, but you're just going to really have to figure it out and fit him in.
Starting 19th, there's no reason why you shouldn't play him. And especially after last week, he's going to be driving the wheels off that thing. So
yeah, exactly.
And here's one in 18th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. I'm really confused on what to do with him. If I'm making my GPP lineups, I'm obviously going to have him in some. But for me, I play like 5 lineups. I'm not one of them that, max enters or anything. But I think if I'm playing 5 lineups, he's going to be on 1 or 2 of my teams. I think you've got to have exposure to him, and I'm pretty sure this is one of his best tracks as well.
It is, yeah.
What's your thoughts on it?
It is one of his best tracks, and it's one of his, unless you really, really, really follow Junior like in depth, you would never realize that this is one of his best tracks. I right now have him in my cash lineup just because of that. And again, he was 3rd in single lap speed in happy hour, 15th in 10 lap. But again, he went out later in the run. He was lap 18 to lap 27 on his 10 lap. He's just trying to get himself set up, for that long run. And again, you're looking for 8 to 10 place differential points. I think, obviously no one's ever a lock, obviously, for a top 10 finish. But I really do think, barring, anything crazy, any, flats like last week at Atlanta, speeding penalties, all that, he has great chance of finishing in the top 10 this week.
Yeah, and I think he needs a good finish. I think he's due. I really do.
He hasn't won at 1.5 miles in 12 years.
It's crazy to think about. But yes.
It is crazy. But I'm not saying he's going to win the race, but I really do think they have a great chance of having a good race.
And another thing is, if you notice, the races he does do well, it takes him till the middle of the race, but right there at the end, he's right near the top 5 in the races he does have a good car. And I could easily see it. As far as cash goes, what's his price on DK? Because
he is, I got it right here. It is 9,200. It's tough.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, like you said. This range right here.
It's tough, but that's honestly though. That's why I like Cole Witt so much.
Yeah.
To me, you need it. I know we haven't gotten to him yet, but Jimmy Johnson's in the same boat. I want to play Johnson, Junior, Harvick, and Keselowski. I want those guys. So I got to figure out what it takes, and Cole Witt is a huge part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm more high on Jimmy Johnson than you, maybe.
I'm up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing you're going to have to decide is, do you want Jimmy Johnson or Kevin Harvick in some GPPs? I think that's going to be the main topic that you're going to have to decide when you're making lineups. But let's go to 17th and Kurt Busch. Not really. He's Kurt Busch. He won the Daytona 500. You obviously have to consider him. And he's going to be a good GPP play because I know everybody's going to be on Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick and Junior. So he's probably the guy going to be overlooked in this price range. What do you think?
Yeah, no doubt. And it's his home track. He led a
Yeah.
portion of the race last year. I want to say it was a pit road penalty, or I don't exactly remember what it was, but he led a portion of the race, had a penalty of some sort, got shuffled back, and just could never regain that.
Exactly.
His practice numbers didn't look anything spectacular today. Obviously, qualifying, they missed it a little bit. But it's just one of those things where I think you hit it on the head. I mean, it's a great GPP play because not only is he cheaper than those guys, but everybody is going to play that. Like,
Exactly.
around the guys around him. So just like the same that I like Ryan Newman, I like Kurt Busch.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to have some exposure to Kurt Busch because there's always a chance that he can get in the top 10 and he can go up there and finish top 5. Why not? So
absolutely.
And this brings me to Jimmy Johnson, and like you said, I think this is why Cole Witt's so perfect for this. You want Jimmy Johnson, and he tweeted a picture. I don't know if you'd seen it or not, but he said this car is so fast. It looks fast, and it is fast.
Yeah.
So for me, I had Jimmy Johnson last week. He screwed me over with him speeding on pit road. Could have won a little bit more money if he didn't, but I'm going right back to the well with him this week. I think, thinking about it, he may be my pick to win the race. I'll think about it later, but I think Jimmy Johnson, I think he has a chance to lead the most laps. He just looks too good of a play. His practice times, even Darrell Waltrip was saying there at the end, I don't know if you caught it or not, but he said whatever they did to his car at the end of practice, that thing was flying. So he was passing cars with ease there at the end. So,
oh yeah.
For me, he's fifth in 15 consecutive lap average. If they did 20 lap consecutive averages, if he had ran that, if they'd showed that, I'm sure he'd be top 2, top 3. He's a lot like Johnson. He is he's good on long runs. So I think, like we said, I think the winning lineup's going to have Jimmy Johnson. I think the cash lineup needs Jimmy Johnson. I don't see how you don't play him. It's like Harvick. I think, I was asking you earlier what you thought of, pairing Keselowski, Harvick, and Jimmy in a GPP lineup, and it goes back to that thing again. You're going to have to do stars and scrubs. I think we need to talk more about that as we go. But
yeah,
can you tell me any reason not to play Jimmy?
Honestly, no. I mean, other than just GPP ownership, there's no way I'm not having the cash. If you guys don't know, like cash games, you don't care about ownership. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can have whatever 500 people tie with the same lineup as long as you're ahead of everybody else. It doesn't matter. GPPs, obviously, you don't want that tie. You don't want to split their first prize. But that being said, there's just no way. I mean, like I said, I'm literally trying to hammer in Johnson, Jr., and Harvick. Like it's so rare that they all miss qualifying just a little bit, and they give you this great starting spot for DFS purposes.
That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, it's crazy.
You can't pass it up. I mean, you really, really, really cannot pass it up.
Who's going to be okay, this is a question for you. Who's going to be, when you're making lineups, who are you going to go and select first? Who's going to be your 2 locks? I don't know about you, but I'm going to try and get Jimmy and Harvick in every one of my lineups. I think that's the 2 I want first.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I mean, like, it's so hard, like, because I love Junior. I really, really love him this week. Like, it's just real. I'm going to play all of them. Like, it's just what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go down swinging with those guys.
Yep, me as well. So, if they all fail, then I guess we're going to get in some trouble.
On to next week.
On the next week, exactly. Um, Denny Hamlin, no one's talking about him. He's in the same boat. I'm sure he's going to be 8% on, 6% on. I don't think anybody's going to be on Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
I don't know. You probably tell us about his 10-lap average and stuff like that, but I don't know what to do with him. I'm probably not going to play him.
Yeah. I mean, he did not look good in practice. He was mid-20s in both, so that's kind of a concern. I mean, he was 19th in 10-lap, and he was way down in single lap at – I'm sorry, I don't have it right off the top here. 26th.
Yeah.
So he seemed to be struggling a little bit this week. But again, it's a good GPP pivot just because they are – it's a talented guy, a good race team. He's going to go overlooked.
Most definitely.
I won't have him in cash. I'll consider him for GPPs. I mean, I really only throw out a couple lineups for GPPs. I try to make the best lineup I can, one of each, and those lineups go in everything.
Yeah,
so.
I think we play very similar. I know a lot of people. I just want to touch on this. I know a lot of people take a lot of heat for max entering. I have no problem with that. I mean, most of their lineups are not going to cash, but there's always that chance you do hit it. And I have no problem with that. I see a lot of people complain about that, but
it's silly. For me, if people complain, I will literally, if they want, I will lend them the $12.50 and they can go play in the quarter arcade.
Yeah.
And you tell me how easy it is because, like, I play a lot of other DFS sports too.
Yeah.
NFL, NBA, all of them. And I've tried the multi-entering, and that's what I did. I went to the quarter arcade and tried it, but I'm not going to spend a ton of my bankroll learning.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's not nearly as easy as everybody would think it is.
Oh, yeah, I've tried it. It's
oh, man. Like, there's a skill to it. And the thing is like all these people, we want big first-place prizes, and without those guys mass multi-entering, they wouldn't exist.
So. Exactly. They contribute to that. All right. I know a guy that we talked about I think it was before qualifying or maybe after, but Paul Menard, I think it was before. You said it was one of his best tracks, and as I started to dig in more, it looks like a good track, and he qualified pretty well for him. He's right around there normally. So, Paul Menard, he's starting 14th. I see him finishing maybe 14th, but as far as cracking the top 10, I think there's just too many better racers out there. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. 5 out of the last 6 races here, he has had a top 10 DFS score. Paul Menard.
That's
so that alone, gives some merit to him right there.
Yeah.
But
14.
when qualifying happens and you see he qualified ahead of guys that you want to play,
I think, he's the perfect example. If you see him in the 20s, I think he automatically rises to the top.
Button.
Yeah.
Lock button.
When he qualifies anything above 20th, you got to just start digging in the numbers. And like you said, 5 out of the past 6. I'm going to bank on 5 out of the past 7. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think if he's qualifying 20th, I would consider him, but like you said, I'm probably not going to have any of them. You might throw him in a GPP lineup or two, maybe, just depending on how many lineups you have.
Right.
And here's one, Clint Boyer. I know he was not happy in practice. He was ready to pack it up and go home. I'm not even going to talk about him much because if you just watch the final practice, it looks like they had no hope of fixing the car.
They didn't know which way was left and which way was right. And they were struggling. And it's kind of funny, too, because, he literally sounded like the Clint Boyer of the past 2 years where he was, so dejected.
Yeah.
These past 2 weeks have been great.
Yeah.
And so that literally just shows, how bad his car
exactly.
right now. And, obviously a lot can change. And I kind of touched on it earlier, but it's going to be hotter there tomorrow. So the track is going to get a little slicker.
And he is better when it's slick. So.
Yeah. But again, they're fighting. He's one of the guys that says he actually has too much grip in the front tires. So when you're loose entering, you cannot get through the corner. You just can't.
It's just crazy to think about. Here we go again, Chase Elliott. Now, if you look at the consecutive laps, he's second on the 15 consecutive laps. I think he's right near the top at the 10 consecutive. He's right there at the fast lap. I mean,
Second.
He looks so good this week, and I picked him last week. I was all over him. And to be honest with you, if it was me, this is where it comes in. Do you want to play Brad Keselowski or do you want to play another guy? I think I'm leaning towards Chase Elliott over Keselowski, and I know that's scary to think about, if Keselowski dominates. But like you said, I'm banking on the being, multiple dominators. I think Chase Elliott, he's got a good enough car, and why not? Why can't he, dominate part of this race? I think him starting 12th, I think he started 11th last week or somewhere like that. And, he should have came in like second. I think he slid back there. He had that pit road speeding penalty, and it took some momentum from him. But he's on a roll right now, and I think he's going to come in the top 5. I don't know about you, but he's got a hot rod, and barring, the variance that could happen, I'm going to be all over him again this week.
Yeah, he looked insanely good. I mean, that's what when we were talking earlier. I mean, Hendrick they found something this week. And, I mean, it started last week, and they were all okay. I mean, other than the pit road penalties, but you look at Casey Kane last week, Chase last week, Junior got in trouble, and Jimmy was very uncharacteristically, with the pit road penalties. But regardless, I think they might have the best balance. I mean, obviously Penske is maybe in a league of their own now.
I would say that.
At Vegas, but I don't think that Hendrick is very far behind. And Chase really, obviously like anybody, they all want to win, but he's really trying to get the first win.
He's been so close. It's like Kyle Larson last year. It's going to happen anytime, and why not tomorrow? It's going to happen this year. Obviously.
Exactly. I'll have him in tournaments. I will.
Cash, that's another. You can't. I don't think you do it. Yeah.
No, I can't. But I mean, again, just for more stats on this race, of the top 10 DFS scores last year, 9 of the top 10 actually finished the race in the top 10.
Yeah. I think people need to mark that down when they're making their lineups.
Like, you really need to have your guys have a realistic chance of finishing in the top 10. Unless it's like a Cole Witt, we're starting 33rd, and if he gets in the top 20, like you're obvious, that's gold. But
and I think
the guys that you're paying up for, you need a top 10.
Yeah, and back to Cole Witt, I think the other 5 drivers, I think they're going to chip in, and they're gonna feed into his his score. I think a lot of people think, well, he may get 12 points or so, but if you look at your other drivers, your other 5, I think they're going to do enough to overcome his 12 points, if he does get 12.
I mean, last week at Atlanta was a perfect example when we were all on McDowell. McDowell got 23 DraftKings points. Like
that was good enough.
Yeah, I mean, because everybody else, if you pick the right guys, if you had Casey Kane, if you had Kenseth, if you had Harvick, you are fine. It's all going to even out. And just with the salary savings, that's just how I'm going to play.
Yeah, it's what you need. Daniel Suarez, not going to say anything on him. He's a rookie. I'm not going to be on him until he shows me something. I know he's got the talent. He's got the car. He's got the team. But 11th, I think that's where his best possible finishing position will be. I think he's going to come in top 20, but, can't play him.
Nope.
I think that's all we need to say about him. So
for this week at least, I think he will be a factor like mid-year.
Once he gets everything figured out.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody keeps sleeping on him and they forget about him, and then we can hop on. But it's just now's not the time.
There was quite a few. There was some people that was on him last week, and I seen that. I was kind of surprised. But let's move on to the top 10 here. This is very interesting because you got some pretty good names up here, and you got my driver right here, Ryan Blaney, which we'll get to in a second because I'm all sorts of messed up on what to do with him. But Jamie McMurray, he was sixth in the best 15 consecutive lap, but I think he was first last week in the 20 consecutive lap. I'm pretty sure, and he didn't really, he had a top 10 car, but he wasn't a top 3 car.
Right.
So I'm not going to play him because I think like I said about Daniel Suarez, I think this is right around the position he's probably going to finish in. So not much potential for him.
No. Same thing.
Yeah. Let's move on. Yeah. So here's a name. I've not even considered him, but looking down the list, I mean, Kyle Busch. How do you not think about him? Because this is what Kyle Busch does. When you don't have him on your radar, he will go out there and he will, take a big chunk of the lead laps, and he'll just screw you over if you don't have him. And I feel like, not having any of them this week, I just feel like something's bad's going to happen, and he's going to go out there and lead. But it's his home track, just like Kurt. And I know he's got that extra motivation, but he's not. I just don't think he's got the car this week.
It's tough, and here's the thing where I think he might, and this is something that goes under the radar too, and I kind of touched on it with a couple other guys. He ran his consecutive 10 laps on older tires.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
He was the fastest one who did it on older tires. So he was actually, so he again ran it from 18 to 27. He was faster than Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, Eric Jones, Clint Boyer, who ran it 1 through 10 on stickers. So this being his home track,
it's Kyle Busch.
Exactly. I mean, he could certainly get up there and just run away. Like, if he's really going to have that good of a long run car, like he was eighth.
Yeah, I think I just overlooked that.
From the 10 lap on his old tires. Like, if this race stays green for long periods of time, like it typically has, like obviously you're going to get broken up with the segments, but he is my pivot from Brad Keselowski in GPPs.
I like that. I really do. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to take it from you. That's, noticing that the old tires on the 10-lap average, I honestly just overlooked that. That kind of changes my mind on it now. Kyle Busch, he likes a loose car, and man, I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to edit some lineups I think that I've already made, but I like it. I think Brad Keselowski, we're going to get to him in a second, but I think it could be like, do you think his ownership's going to be like Kevin Harvick last week?
Yep.
50% and most of the it makes so much sense now that you say that Kyle Busch is a pivot. I mean, that's a perfect pivot for me.
I mean, especially because Brad won last week.
Yeah, I think that's going to inflate it a little bit too. So yeah.
Right, and then qualifying on the pole and so on and so forth. And the casual NASCAR fan that's just throwing laps into DFS, like they'll blindly click him. And yeah, he might dominate the race.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he won't. Like, he's going to be in my cash lineup. There's no doubt about it, because he's going to lead some portion of this race.
He's going to lead a good chunk of the first 80 laps. It's just a question, if they got a caution, how that's going to factor in. But like you said, he's got to be in your cash lineup, just because if there's always that if he, let's go to Eric Jones, just a rookie. I ain't going to say much about him. I don't think you can play him.
I can't wait until we get to the point where we can play him, though.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be perfect, because he's got talent.
Man.
He's going to be good here. Like, I think he might win a race this year because the 78, like we seen last year, they can take over a race. But
yeah, no, there's no doubt, and it's not even like he's that far off this week either.
He's got a fast car. Yeah,
he's been top 10 in all the practices. He qualified top 10. It's just how this works in NASCAR DFS.
If it's not DFS, I think you have a different mindset. But I mean, DFS, you just can't play him.
Right.
And here's Casey Kane. Hendricks figured it out. Casey Kane did great last week. 7th place. He's good at mile and a half, or he used to be. He hasn't shown much speed in the past couple of years, but 7th place, I can't play him.
No, I mean, literally, it's the same exact story as Eric Jones. Obviously, not the driver, but as far as the stats, pan out for this specific week is, he's 7th quickest in happy hour, single lap, and 9th quickest in 10 lap. I mean, again, you're looking at, if you're targeting, is he going to dominate the race? Is he going to lead laps? Is he going to get fastest laps? Probably not. And then, so from there, you think, is he going to gain 8 to 10 positions? And obviously, no.
Yeah.
7th. So for me, he's crossed off my list just because I cannot realistically see him doing either one of those things.
Yeah. I mean, he's due for one of those things, but I think here's what I think. I think the casual player is going to look at his finishing position last year, and they're going to look at not last year, but last race. They're going to look how many DK points he had. And I think it's going to inflate some,
Right.
so in some of the littler contests. I think he's going to be higher on than we think. But the people who play and watch the sport, they're going to know more. And like you said, he's fast, but he's not going to go up there and contend. So
no.
Joey Logano, he won the Xfinity race. It's Penske, and here's where I'm going to start talking about Ryan Blaney and what to do with him. But you got Joey Logano. I think he's going to go up there. I'm sure at some point he's going to be in the top 2. I just don't know when. I don't know if he's going to be the leader. I could see him dominating part of the race. Why not? But he's overlooked. I think he's going to go overlooked, and I think it goes back to being a GPP player. I mean, you want guys that are overlooked, and I think some people will watch the Xfinity race, and they'll say, "Well, he won the race," but I don't know. You help me out here. I'm going to put him in some GP. I'm going to put him in one GPP lineup. Maybe if I'm making 5, just what if? I'm sure he's going to finish top 10.
Right.
And he could have some laps led. So I mean, he's probably going to have a decent score. It's probably not going to be a winning lineup score, but
it's tough. I mean, like if he wins the race,
and
that's 51 points right there. 5 for the differential, 46 for the win. And then, it's just a matter of how many laps is he going to lead, how many fast laps.
Exactly.
But I mean, realistically, too, there's only 267 laps of this race.
Yeah. And I think
can't really lead all those laps. And not to mention, you're going to have less amount of fast laps available because of the segment yellows. So that alone, you're going to lose anywhere probably between, at least, it's hard to say, but for just the segment yellows, it's probably 10 to 16 laps that you're going to lose just on segment yellows.
Exactly.
Those fast lap opportunities are gone. So it's hard for me to see him having huge upside. But again, there's nothing wrong with playing him in a tournament because if all those other guys fall off and fail and you have him, that's
a huge swing in your favor.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard, there's a lot of guys that you can just play in tournaments, but to me, it's hard, unless you see a massive upside, it's just hard. He's got to lead 80 laps to get 20 laps led points.
Yeah.
So that's still only 71.
And what I would say is, if I seen him up here like the 15 consecutive laps, if he was maybe where Chase Elliott is or Blaney at, top 2,
yeah,
I would be more on him. I think a lot of people would be on him, if that was the case. But
right.
I think, like I said, I'm gonna put him in a lineup just what if, but I just can't do it. Let's go to Kyle Larson. This guy's it's going back to Kevin Hart thing. He should have won last week. I don't know what he was doing. It's just a bonehead mistake on his part, but he's going to be hungry. Hungry as any driver in the field. And he's pretty fast. He's 4th in the 15 consecutive lap averages. So for me, I mean, he can dominate. I think he'll be there at the end, especially. I mean, that's where he makes his money at. But I've got him on my list of drivers to consider. He's one of my favorites this week, but the question is, am I going to play him? It's just so hard with his salary and stuff, or his starting position. I'm probably not going to be on him as much as I should be. It's like Logano. I'm going to have him in a lineup. What if, But what about you?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, similar. I do think he has a better chance of dominating this race than Logano, though.
I would say that too.
I will say that. But again, it's just hard because, again, what's the upside? He's got to lead so many laps, to really, really, really get there, like for what you would need starting 5th.
I think he can lead some laps, but like you said, he's probably not going to lead enough to even put a dent in the score. So, and that brings us to Matt Kenseth. I really don't. What's his 10-lap average?
His 10-lap was 13th, but again on old tires.
Okay. Was he right behind Kyle Busch in that then?
He was 3rd, so it went Kyle Busch, Logano, Kenseth, and 10-lap on old tires.
Yeah, so I mean, if you don't play, if you can't play Logano, you can't play Kenseth.
Yeah,
simple as that.
No.
And it brings me to Ryan Blaney. I thought he was going to get the pole yesterday. I got excited there for a minute, and then Brad Keselowski ruined that. I normally have to put him in the lineup just because he's my favorite driver, and I cannot not have him on my team. But he's 1st in 15 consecutive lap averages. I think he's 1st in 10 lap. I'm not. Is he?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, could this be the day, he wins his first race? I mean, he's did this before. I think he was like last year. He fooled me a couple of times because he was around 3rd and 10 lap, and he fell backwards, and he finished in the top 10, but, he didn't really do anything. So that's what concerns me because I've seen him do this before, but I don't think I've seen him be 1st in anything before. I think he starts 3rd, and, if Keselowski or, if he has a bad restart or anything, I think he's going to be up there, and he's an aggressive driver if you didn't tell last week. And at Daytona, he was very aggressive. I mean, well, let me hear what you're going to do. I'm really interested to see what you're going to do because I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still struggling with it too. But at the same time, like the upside on him at his price would be nuts because typically, your dominators are usually anywhere from, usually 9,500 and up.
Yeah.
You're usually dealing with over 10K guys that'll dominate the race. You're talking Ryan Blaney, I believe he's 7,600 this week.
Yeah.
That is crazy upside for him. I would be jumping up and down to play him if Brad Keselowski wasn't 2nd fastest in 10 lap. And they both ran on brand new tires. So he would have, to me, like, and it is so risky because to me, he would have to get around him early in the race.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he can. I feel like Keselowski, he's just as aggressive and he wants to lead laps. He's that guy that wants to stay out front. And I
Right.
think it kills me to say it. It really does. It kills me to say it. But if he wins, I'll be glad. But
yeah,
I'm probably going to have him. I'm not one lineup, you know?
Yeah. Like I said,
me.
I mean, if Keselowski and Truex were a little bit further down,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they had a little bit worse cars and they struggled in practice, I would be all over him.
Yeah, he would lead. He would lead that first segment pretty much. But
pretty much, I just don't see it with Keselowski up there,
yeah.
And Truex was really fast at race. So I mean, they were 1, 2, 3 in 10 laps.
So let's just talk about Truex and Keselowski together because you know I think I'm not as high on Truex. I was thinking about it earlier, and then I seen practice, and I just like you said with Blaney, I think Truex is about the same. You know, I think if you think Truex would jump the restart and take the lead, I think you could play him, but I'm just not sure that I like him as much as Keselowski or even Blaney. I think I like Blaney a little bit better. That might just be me, the hat talking, but
well, the price too.
Yeah, the price. I mean, that's
for sure.
But I just think Brad Keselowski dominates that partial of the first segment. So I mean,
yeah.
What are you going to do with Truex? I'm interested to see this.
If I would have heard a little bit better, you know, I guess garage talk. Like he liked his car, but he didn't feel good enough with his speed, and he didn't feel good enough with his balance. I know that's hard for a driver to say and comprehend when he's literally the quickest 1 lap and third quickest 10 lap. But again, those were on brand new tires. So that just tells me that his car went away a lot quicker than he wanted to getting into the run. So it's not really going to add up, you know, to a lot of success. That's why I like Kyle Busch so much, is because those guys, once they start falling off, here comes Kyle Busch, and if he gets the lead, it's all about track position and clean air here. And I mean, JGR, those guys literally have the best pit stops, and that's just why I like him so much as a pivot. And I mean, he's never going to be like really under-owned just because he is such a popular driver, but I think we'll get him, I don't know, say 30% to Brad's 50.
Yeah, I mean, you're crazy not to even try that. So, and another thing is, when Kyle Busch gets the lead, you know, I think when he has a good car, it's just so hard to pass him. He will race you so aggressively. Probably the hardest. He's probably one of the hardest to get around.
Yeah, him or Brad.
Yeah. So, I mean, if them two are up there battling, I think it's going to make for a good race. Well, that probably wraps up the position. So, I'm probably going to close on this. Who's your winner of the race?
I'm going to go Kyle Busch. His long run car, his experience there, his team, JGR is literally known for their pit stops. Like, it was a couple years ago where they had the fastest lug nut guns.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody could figure out why the hell they were getting out of the pits, you know, half a second to a second faster than everybody else.
It's crazy to watch.
And it's just like they're so good and so consistent. Where and it's going to come into play because they're going to have to make stops.
Definitely.
And he's really, really, really aggressive getting on pit road.
That game, him and Keselowski, they're probably the two best at doing that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I just think he has a little bit better of a long run car, which obviously tomorrow a lot can change and it's going to be adjustments, but he's one of the best at making adjustments. So I see him winning here after a lackluster performance last week.
And what driver do you think scores the most points?
Oh, that's tough. If he gets up there early enough, I think it's Kyle. I'm not going to play him in cash because I think if he doesn't win the race and lead a bunch of laps, the upside's not fully there starting 9th. my favorite cash game play is Kevin Harvick. There's no doubt about it. I think he's one of the safer plays that you're going to have. So
probably the safest.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll go. I guess most points finalists will be Kevin Harvick.
Kevin Harvick.
Yeah. Who do you got for those two?
I said Jimmy Johnson earlier, and I was thinking to myself about the other drivers, and it's tough. Now that you got me thinking Kyle Busch, I ain't gonna go Kyle Busch, but that definitely, the old tire thing on practice. Heck, why not go Jimmy Johnson? I'm gonna stick to my conviction. Here's another thing. It's the Kobalt 400. He's running Kobalt on his car. He's gonna try his best to satisfy his sponsors. I think a lot of people don't know, like the consensus, like casual player ain't gonna know he's running the Kobalt car, but that factors a lot in. They want to impress their sponsors, and I guarantee you he's going to be safe on pit road. As you alluded to earlier, you said the drivers were able to practice on pit road a little bit more this week. I think he's going to do better than that because he normally doesn't do that. I think his Twitter post, it set in my brain, and I'm all on Jimmy Johnson for some reason. All the stars are aligning for Jimmy Johnson. And at the same time, I'm going to say he scores the most points because he starts 16th. He's going to be in my cash lineup. If I didn't think he was going to score the most points, I wouldn't have him. And I think he dominates the last part of the race. I think it's crazy for me to say he dominates the last part because could be a couple people that lead laps, but I think this race isn't going to end, like a green, white check or anything. I think it's going to be one of them that is going to go into green, and I think he pulls away there at the end. I just see him satisfying the Kobalt sponsor. I see him being flawless on pit road. I see Chad Knaus being determined to get that car up front, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Really can't say much more than that. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm 100% playing him in cash.
Yeah.
So.
Well, guys, that will do it for the first ever the Wedge adjustment. We'll be back next week. Where do they race next week? I can't.
Phoenix.
Phoenix. So we'll probably same time next week, probably.
Yeah.
That's fine with you. All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.